So hi everybody, my name is Asad. I'm 25 years old. I've been working in this area for developing products since 6 years. I was kind of had no intention of even going into engineering, but as soon as my parents said, okay, electrical engineering is probably the only thing you should do. So and I got into the best school of the country that was in my home country. So that's how my fate was written. So nothing was planned before. I started into development. Had no intention of going into development as well. So as soon as my dad gave me his old iPhone, which was iPhone 5 or iPhone 4S, and that was a time in 2013 when I was a sophomore in college when iOS 7 came out, and that was how the whole interaction of iOS changed. It looked much more slick and it was much more cleaner, and I got interested in how these things are made. So in the fall of 2013 or probably late summer when it was released, that's how I ended up started doing iOS development. And at that time Udemy was, I think it was not even there, but it was very young, so we didn't know how to go and start learning from there. So there was a Stanford course on iOS development, from how I started getting into development, and that's then getting jobs from Craigslist, and Craigslist getting a online voice over IP number on Skype, and then setting up my business as a 20-year-old in Pakistan. And then at the same time, because everybody was making an app at that time, so that's how we ended up getting a much better rate as compared to what every other developer would get in Asia. And then coming to the US sometimes on business visas, trying to meet clients, and then eventually learning how to make our own products, and then transitioning into that role as well. So my today's agenda would basically be a non-conventional way, such that how do you transition from a purely technical role, for example, if you're working as a developer or have a CS degree, into a PM role, but basically a PM role as a startup founder in a startup, on how to launch lean. Like if you want to make a small platform, how to launch it in the least budget possible, even under $20,000, $10,000, and at the same time as a startup and nobody knows you right at that time. So how to leverage your anonymity, so to actually against your competitors. Like for example, if I'm making the next Slack, so I know what Jammer has, which is engaging users, what Slack has, which is engaging users, and at the same time what I can make difference. And so whatever, I know everything about them, but they don't know anything about me. So using that anonymity for our leverage to launch our own products as well as a startup founder. So as I've told you, my background, iOS developer since 2013. I've launched over 50 apps, not only me, but with the help of other people who work with me in the US and in Asia. Made over 30 plus platforms. Then went into mobile gaming. Our games had over 10 million plus downloads around the world. They were even featured. Some of them were featured in European Google Play Store, and that's how I made most of my fortune. And after that, I also managed remote teams from around the world in Guatemala, Honduras, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, Azerbaijan, and Eastern Europe. So right now I'm working on a SaaS platform known as Feed Ranger, which helps us get rid of the SaaS chaos and everything that an organization faces in onboarding and employees into different SaaS platforms, and also for a product manager to how to manage a product and not get overwhelmed by different SaaS platforms and softwares they use every day. So that's what we will be talking about. So anybody tell me what quality that a startup founder / a PM needs to have when developing a product, because you're dealing with 3-4 different types of teams?
Grit.
Yes, grit can be one of them, but one of the things that I think that you need to be a people person, because you are talking to designers which are on the other spectrum that have completely different thinking. Then you're talking to developers which have a 180-degree shift in thinking, and then you're talking to, if you have if you're lucky, you have a marketing and sales team which sometimes they overcommit to clients, and developers might not agree with them what they've committed. So how to actually keep everything in sync, that is what I believe the job of a startup founder or a product manager is, that to keep everything in sync and directing all different teams into one goal, so they synergize and make a product that is useful for humans and for users around the world, or any area that we're working on. So this also means you how to hire people, how to hire the best talent at a lean budget. At the same time, setting the right expectations, because we watching movies and watching some documentaries. We assume that if you're running a startup just like us, everybody else is going to also work 16 hours a day or also going to pull all-nighters. But how do you motivate your team, set the right expectations to have the same goal, and everybody understands that what we need to deliver. So that's what I'll be talking about. What my approach always has been in product management is, always go lean. Try to spend as little money as possible, because as a startup founder, that is something that you own, that is not in access for you, as compared to being a product manager in a big company where you have the best engineers available. Just like, for example, in Google, you have the best designers, you have the best data available to you as well. So if you want to do some trend analysis, or you want to do some data analysis, that what the trend is going at. You also have the right tools available to you to actually even do product discovery even before starting something, and at the same time also have the best engineers in the team. So our approach is always going lean, launching as fast as possible, but not as fast as possible that it is not even marginally good as what is in the market right now. So for example, if you're making the next booking platform, you can't just make a platform that is just like booking.com. You have to provide something that is at least marginally better, or so that users can come to your platform, as compared to not just making another SaaS platform that users might not use. And then how to focus on user metrics, how to understand user behavior, because that is something that is the most important thing that a product manager needs to do as soon as they launch, because that actually tells you might think your website looks great, the user experience is perfect because you've been seeing that website for 6 months, but when a new user sees it and he or she gets confused, this means there's something wrong. So that's how you need to understand user metrics and behavior and track that user behavior to reiterate the product. And reiterating the product, even if you are a startup founder or anybody, that is the most important thing that you can do as well, because you reiterate the design, you reiterate the engineering, and you also reiterate your marketing based on what you learned based off your customers or users you have. And number one priority for me always is user experience. That user experience should be great, and that's what makes the user also come to your platform again and again. So as everybody knows, you guys either are working in engineering or design or development phase or marketing teams. Planning, execution, and launch and reiterations are the 3 phases of product development everybody works on. So that's pretty standard. But at the same time, how do you what softwares you need to use in product discovery, product ideation are also very important. So what I actually, has anybody heard of Glider.io? Glider.io. This is a company based out of San Francisco. That is probably the best tool that you can use right now for product discovery, because it helps you make roadmaps. It helps you, keep track of your user research, and at the same time, also collaborate between different teams in your company as well. So every part of your team or a product team is perfectly aligned in the same direction. At the same time, how to map an SRS, software requirements document, feature document, and also create a roadmap based on that. Because as a startup founder, as soon as you launch, first you need to have a product that is way better than the current competitors, or you need to just solve one pain point that nobody else is solving, but at the same time also build features on top of it to still remain in the game, as compared to some other knockoff coming and completely throwing you away from whatever you're doing. Then the design phase as well, how to actually start design phase, how to synchronize the design, your product roadmap phase with the design phase, and also how to make the design and development teams synergize, because designers might want an animation that might look really great, but if you want to do it in development, you would probably want to write a whole library for that. So developers would really hate that. So how do you actually synergize both teams? Do you guys have any questions on that? I would love to answer them right now.
So, SRS feature document.
Yes.
Usually they use sprints, right?
Yes.
For each sprint you have SRS or stories.
So first, what we have done and what I have done since I've been working is, you first make a whole feature document, at least for an MVP, and then you design sprints by dividing up different chunks based on how it needs to move forward. For example, you want one feature which is very important, so that will be part of the earliest sprint, so sprint 1 or sprint 2, and then different sprints are planned on top of it based on this document as well. So that is something that I always recommend. That is also my opinion as well, that you need to have a document ready and everything. Well, you reiterate it again and again as well and change it based on how the product turns out. But also it helps you also make a roadmap and design sprints as well in the future. So everybody must be familiar with this diagram as well, that how you need to research the product. Go to Google AdWords, see if there's a need for the product. Go to Quora, go to Craigslist. Is it something that actually are people searching for right now? And at the same time, see if that the similar competitors are existing in the market and are they solving any pain point right now or not. There's a bunch of tools like you can use. For example, you can use SimilarWeb, where you can just copy and paste URL of a website. It will tell you this bounce rate. If you pay for it, it'll tell you more metrics. But for the free account, it will tell you about the bounce rate, the number of times an average user goes to the website, and at the same time what is the traffic on the website month by month. So these are the tools that you can use in product research. Then at the same time, planning the product, how you can make and solve that pain point that other products or other companies in the area are not solving. At the same time, then you move forward and start sketching high fidelity wireframes, which is basically your designer and a product manager sitting together with the developer and moving forward and making pencil sketches of the UI and the interface. And then then the design phase starts. Also, one of the things that people forget is that you need to actually have your brand identity designed even before that. Although I understand that it's very hard to have designers or good designers in your team that can actually make a really compelling or really dominating brand identity, and the budget might be low. But choosing the right colors and choosing the right and clean UI is still very important, because there's too much saturation in app market right now. And the first thing, if the user doesn't like it or it doesn't communicate or convey trust from the to a user, people are not going to download that at all, or they're going to delete the app as soon as they're done with their discount or something with whatever you provide. So, and then the prototyping phase. This is also very important sometimes, because you might design the whole prototype and also can get it tested from the users. And that's what a startup founder and a product manager can really do as well, is that make a prototype. And for example, if anybody of you uses Adobe XD, you can exactly make the same animations that you can make in a website or a mobile app. So that actually also helps in understanding how a user is behaving whenever you put a prototype in front of them. So for example, animations, as everybody knows, are very important if the data that you're fetching from your API is very large. So what kind of a message you want to write on the website or an app, so that the person is more engaged in that message or the animation before all the data is fetched and displayed or rendered on the app or something. So this is something that is very important user experience as well. And I'm sure there's a lot of apps that do that perfectly. And I would love to mention a couple of them as soon as we're done. Then as soon as you start testing the UI with your customers and everything and potential users, and that is what I've done in the products that have been successful, is that we always move forward and talk to the customers as much as I can. Even if you have to take them to coffee or lunch or anything, that $10 or $20 you spent right now would actually bring you back more, will probably be bring you 100 times more revenue in the future, because you've spent most time with the users when you're designing the product, and actually would also save a lot of engineering effort in the end as well. Then reviewing, iterating, then going through the same process before you hand it off to the engineering team. But this does not stop here. This even happens with Facebook right now, with a couple of million users, because they would still test their product again and again, change whatever they can, and then reiterate and hand it off to the engineering team. I'm sure everybody is very aware with how an Agile sprint works. So this is pretty standard, design, handover, plan, build, test, review, and launch. And then this is also an infinite circle that you would still be launching unless you run out of money and the company goes down. But as long as you are alive, this is something that you need to focus on if anybody needs to stay alive. So a couple of games that I mentioned, they had like 7 million downloads, and that's what we stopped in this phase, and that's why we lost all of our customers and all of our users after a few months. because we didn't focus on that. So this is also coming from the heart as well. That you need to reiterate, you need to understand user behavior and try to hook them as soon as you can and as much as you can. So yes, please.
Yeah, why did you lose track of your users? So what was the story behind that?
So we used to have these games. If anybody has an Android phone, you can always search them. Stickman Ninjas and Stickman Champs, and one of it has like more than 7 million downloads. The problem with us was that we had an engineering team of 7 people. All of them were not in the US, and our engineering team cost was like $5,000 or $6,000, and we were building it on Unity, right? What would happen was that I did a lot of research, and my co-founder did a lot of research on App Store optimization and the keywords. So there was there were not a lot of games in the archery keywords, and there were not a lot of games in Stickman keywords. So whoever would search Stickman or archery, our game would pop up on the top. That's how we got featured. But like companies like Candy Crush and Clash of Clans, they have like behavioral psychologists working on their team full time on understanding the user behavior and finding out how to actually hook users. And at the same time, they also have algorithms which involve machine learning. But they also have algorithms running on the back end that involve and use machine learning to actually change the difficulty level of the level in real time. So if you're actually winning it will probably let you win a few of the levels as soon as you use it every day, and then it will probably make it harder. And as soon as it makes it harder, it will also pop up that why don't you buy coins and get to the next level. So this is what they used to do. That's what retains the users as well. But as you must have seen with every game, there's a peak and then there's a downfall. And back in 2014, or 2013, there was a big craze of Candy Crush, but not a lot of people play it anymore, right? So in mobile game, it happens, but it actually depends upon you that how long your curve can be, and at the same time how much ROI that you can get out of it. So because we were super lean, that's why our ROI was easily like 1,000 times. But if we were developing it here and everybody was here, then that would have been like twice times or something like that, which might not be very feasible to run for any company or any successful product as well. So that's that was that issue there as well. And at the same time, we tried to hire a bunch of UX people, and I also wanted to work on that as well. But what ended up happening was we didn't have enough time, and we rode the wave and it went down. So then we stopped doing it at all. At the same time, as I've actually mentioned that before, reiterating the product, designing, development, and marketing, reiterating this might be the least advice that people might give you, that you also need to reiterate your marketing based on what how your users are behaving. Maybe your email marketing is not working. Maybe your Google ads are not working. So in big companies or like in like corporations, because of the large marketing and sales budget, you can actually afford in doing experimentations. But in a small company with only 10 employees or a person working on his own idea, this can be like a $500 risk that you can take with each for mobile ads or for YouTube ads or for email marketing. So this is what you need to understand right now. And at the same time, I always recommend people is just imagine what you do with other people's apps, and then exactly try not to do that. So if for example if you open up YouTube right now, like Monday.com populates I don't know if you've seen Monday.com's ads on YouTube. They're I don't know why they're spending so much money. And this actually annoys you, and I would never use Monday.com, even if it's the best software product management tool at all. The reason for that is that they've bugged me enough for me to piss me off that I would never use their products. Exactly, not do whatever other people are doing to frustrate you. And one of the companies that I really like, also from an engineering point of view, is SnapTravel, SNAPTRAVEL. They actually move forward and they write Medium posts on what their engineering is doing, what their marketing is doing, why they changed their branding. And as a product enthusiast, I really like reading their blogs on Medium, and that makes me, even if their product is even harder to use, I would still use it because it's closer to my heart, because they actually make effort to tell their users what they're doing with their product as compared to just bombarding them with YouTube and Facebook ads. So do exactly not do what other people are doing to annoy you, and do what products that you really like with animations and illustrations and email marketing that that actually makes you want to use that product. and go to their website and download it. So what are we doing right now is, as a product manager, you must be on 12 or 13 different SaaS platforms right now. And what makes it super hard is that there's a lot of clutter in our life today. So there's too many notifications that we receive. There's too many if you have your GitLab or your development and your project management tools linked with your Slack channels, you'll probably be receiving like 500 to 600 notifications in one channel if you have a couple of developers working every day. So how do you reduce that clutter and also understand how your engineering team is performing, how your design team is performing? That is why we are now working on Feed Ranger, which is basically a platform to actually declutter your life from a lot of notifications, and a product management manager or a project manager or a CEO exactly knows what metrics are that are actually working or not, instead of a bunch of notifications that you have to analyze and read. So this is what I found on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, that this is how Salesforce's tech stack looks like. So if you just imagine how many softwares they're using for different reasons, it's super confusing for anybody working on different teams. They're using the backend is on Ruby on Rails, .NET and Java. At the same time, they're using Slack. They're using a couple of other chat apps. They're using Jenkins. They're using GitLab. So it's pretty confusing for anybody. And they have for LMS, they have WordPress. And so how do you actually take care of that? And they have Survey Monkeys, the whole surveys, and everything like that. So how do you actually stop this clutter? Because what we realized running a small company was, when we would hire somebody who was working in our remote team, the biggest problem or the biggest hassle that the program manager or the coordinator in our company would face was onboarding those employees into our platform. What does that mean? Okay, set up their Slack, set up their Gmail, set up their GitLab, Jira, Trello, and everything. And the process would probably take around 1 to 2 hours to do, which is actually, if you convert into the number of dollars spent, it's like probably $120 spent on every user that you onboard. And we wanted to reduce this by 1/5 or 1/6. So it only takes 5 or 6 minutes or at most 15 minutes to onboard the user on all of the SaaS platforms. So this is what we are working on right now, which is, we call it Feed Ranger. So it's basically a ranger that sees your feed to actually manage all the SaaS platforms on across your organization with only one click. So if I'm onboarding a user known as abc@codesmen.com, I write abc@codesmen.com, and the accounts are set up on whatever the radio buttons that I click. So instead of me going to different platforms and setting up accounts, they're set from only one platform. At the same time, if an employee is laid off or something, instead of going and trying to take them away from different projects, it's easier to do it from one radio button as compared to doing it from different, which also is also cost on the company's hourly rate as well. At the same time, we also want to make sense of the different notifications that a Slack workspace gets. You get on Trello. So if anybody uses Trello and uses Trello with a lot of employees, they have probably the worst way to show notifications, because it becomes super hard that, okay, what does this person did? So it moved it from ready to test to approved. So it becomes really hard. So this is what we wanted to do, was to actually make it into real metrics that, okay, my my full stack developer completed 5 tasks today, and at the same time, the Git pipelines were failed twice, and there were 2 merge requests and stuff like that. Instead of just going through the clutter of notifications and finding what the engineers are actually doing, and also be able to see their performance as well. So that's what we're working on right now, and hopefully we plan to launch it by January, and let's see how it goes after that. So that's pretty much it, and I would love to talk to you guys and learn more about you as well.
How do you manage if your competitor implements the same feature?
Yes.
And they have quick ramp up time and more user base? How do you handle that challenge?
Well, that's a very difficult question as well, right? Because if a company comes in and they have a lot of users, and also they have more money than you, then you pretty much can't do anything unless you do something very specially to actually compete against them. But at the same time, what Trello did, Trello was doing what Jira couldn't do for 6 years, right? They had money and they had users initially, but what Trello was providing was a simple and clear user interface and user experience that people were using, and in the end, Jira ended up buying Trello for $80 million. So what you have as a startup is you have a quicker wrap-up time, you have a quicker development time for features, you can reiterate the product much faster. So that's the only thing that you can do, and also because nobody knows you right now, so you know what other companies are doing wrong and what frustrates you, and just not implement that. So that is the only advantage you have as a startup, is quicker development cycles and knowing what others are doing wrong, but they don't know what you are doing wrong. So yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit kind of like more about your working life? So for example, what did you do yesterday and last week?
So let me take up my. So I was working on. So hey, I had plans to prepare for the talk, but I didn't. So I did it today. So at the same time, I had to write a audit letter to our employees yesterday on what was working on what. So one of our employees was leaving for Germany. So we had to write him an audit letter that how his performance was, and most of the time was actually worked on designing the new UI with the team and actually understanding different products for Feed Ranger, that how to actually make the interaction smoother, at the same time how to actually design the animations for that, and then most of the time was also spent also on that how we need to write the blog for Feed Ranger, that what kind of information we need to give the users, and at the same time if we want to make our own blog with like blog.feedranger.io, or just integrate Medium's blog. So we came to a conclusion that we should probably integrate Medium's blog instead of reinventing the wheel and making our own blog as well, because for publishers Medium also gives you a lot of metrics that you would have to implement it from third-party libraries in your own blog. So this is what we worked on yesterday.
Do you have a favorite product and a not so favorite product? Other than Monday.com.
Yeah, so I hope nobody from Monday sees it, but sorry.
I'll invite them to watch it.
Really? Okay. So yeah, they should probably stop bombarding my YouTube every day. So there's a couple of products that I love. Glider.io. Like they're not paying me any referral, but it's a really good product for product managers. So let me show you right now what it can do.
Do you also know a product board?
Yeah, this is a product board, but with a bunch of other features as well. So it can help you validate ideas and do a bunch of other stuff as well. So it's very good for doing product research, product discovery, making a roadmap, and everything like that, and also syncing all the teams together with one idea. I also have this great products as well. So I like Tandem. They recently launched. They've I think raised $30 million, and it was probably the hottest startup in last Y Combinator's demo day. So you can join. You can link your Slack channel to it, and it's a good tool for managing remote teams in one platform. At the same time, it's for collaboration. You can do conversations just like you can do it in Slack, and you can also link a bunch of other project management tools as well, like Asana and Google Docs and everything like that. It also comes with a bunch of integrations like other stuff, and it's also cross-platform, although I use their web version. At the same time, what you can there's a bunch of other products that I really like, especially with user experience. I love Intercom. I'm sure you guys have heard about Intercom. Have you used Intercom in your products before? It's a tool to actually, it's a customer management tool. So I'm sure you must have seen this popping up in your websites somewhere on the web. So it's probably one of the best. Well, not one of the best, but I like how they started, and I really like their engineering team as well. Based on what they've done with the product, I love Zapier. Have you guys ever used Zapier? So this is something that I really want my company to be as well. So they have a 100% remote team working, not in an office, and they come up with a lot of integrations to actually automate your workflow. So if I want my Stripe to get linked to my Slack channel, I'll use this Zapier integration and set a bunch of rules and link it to my Slack channel, so I know exactly when a customer is buying my product, and I can probably get a high or something, or a dopamine rush or not. So that is what Zapier is probably one of my favorite tools as well. I as far as the story is concerned, Mailchimp story is probably very. Does anybody know what Mailchimp does? And do you guys know their story as well? I think that it was probably 99 or 2000, and they were working for some client project, and their client wanted an email fetching tool or something that they made, and they kind of didn't, thought that project could run out, can take off or something. So, but they after another client came and asked for the same project, so they were like, okay, maybe this is something that is required by different companies, and they kind of took it with their consultancy business. So they had a consultancy, like a web development dev shop in Atlanta, Georgia, and they had like big clients like Coca-Cola and everything. And they made the product, they took the product, and at the same time they also did their consultancy on the side. And in the end, when the product took off, they stopped doing the consultancy work and then took the product. And that's why they also didn't have to raise money at the start and give a chunk of their company to the VC firms or angel investors. And now that also gives you more control over your company as well. So that's a few stories that I like in the startup world. But definitely try Glider, Zapier, and Intercom. They're great tools, especially for customer management, automating your workflow, and at the same time doing just general product management. So yeah, that's pretty much it.